back to my channel. Today we're going to be making a few different things that all contain like the same ingredients, the main ingredient being this sushi rice. So today we're going to make some sushi, some kimbap, some little onigiri, which are the little triangle rice things. And we're going to make plenty so we can eat it for a meal and then have some left over for snacks throughout the rest of the week if we want to. It is fairly simple to make, it just takes some time. So to start off, we're going to start by washing our rice. So to start off, we have to wash our rice. For sushi rice, it's a little different. You need to get like this, sushi rice or like premium grade rice to have it be sticky to make the sushi or the onigiri. But we're just gonna simply follow the cooking instructions on the rice bag, which is basically the same as cooking regular rice on the stove. The only difference with sushi rice or like premium grade rice, you have to wash it a lot. So that's what we're gonna do first. So I'm just going to get the amount of rice I want to cook into my bowl that I'm going to wash it in. I'm going to do 2 cups of rice. It's going to be a lot of rice that we need. This is going to be way more than like a meal. Like I said, we're going to make it for a meal and then have some snacks left over. But I just put 2 cups of rice in there, and so we're going to wash it first. So washing it's fairly simple, you just have to do it a couple times. I don't use any fancy mechanisms or anything to wash the rice. See, it's how the water is all cloudy. I'm just gonna simply drain it out. I usually just keep my hand there to catch any rice that may fall, but usually none really comes out. And we're just gonna fill it right back up. And I like to just kind of swirl the rice around, kind of make sure it gets all of the rice. But we're going to do this, I don't know, probably like 6 or 7 times just to make sure the rice is all clean. But you'll notice as you go along, the rice or the water will get clearer and clearer. You don't have to have it perfectly clear, but you want to get it fairly clear. I just like to give it a swirl every time. And I'll keep doing this until I get to a point where I think the water is clear enough. So I think this is going to be my last round of water. As you can see, the water is much clearer. Maybe not on the camera so much, but it is much clearer in person. There's little to no dust coming or like debris coming off the rice. So it's fairly clean. So I'm just going to dump this and then we are going to go put it on the stove. So to cook the rice on the stove, I'm simply just going to follow the directions on the bag, which is putting the rice and water in it on high until it starts to boil, and then I will turn it down low and put a lid on it and let it cook. And that's just following the directions on the bag, which are very simple and the basic way of how you cook rice. Alright, so while the rice is finished cooking on the stove, I'm going to finish prepping all the things that are going to go inside of the sushi or the kimbap or the onigiri. Before I started cooking the rice, I just took a cucumber, 2 celery sticks, and some baby carrots and chopped them up into like slices, just so they're easy to put in to our sushi and kimbap. So I just have a plate of that. But the other ingredients I'm going to make, I have just some crab meat, which I'm not going to do anything with. I'm just going to set it in there as so. And then I have a can of salmon and a can of tuna that we're going to add some stuff into to get ready for putting in our food. So with these, I do want to go drain them just to have them be less, liquidy and be able to stick within the rice easier. So I'm going to go drain these real quick. Now that I drained them, I do try to get as much liquid as I can out of them. Just, like I said, it makes it easier to stick to the rice. And you can leave the fish and tuna just as is, kind of like how I am the crab meat, but I'm going to add some stuff to them to kind of like make a mixture to stick within the rice. So for the tuna, I'm going to just do the simple combination of tuna and mayo, and then I'm going to add some sriracha sauce in it. and you just kind of mix it in there. I don't have like exact measurements, I just kind of go by eye, but I always use just 1 can of tuna and then add as much of the other ingredients as I see fit. So I add in the mayo. I'm gonna add in some sriracha, and that's just gonna be my first mixture for the tuna. And then you can also buy like sriracha mayo and just add that instead of adding mayo and then sriracha. It's just already owned mayo and sriracha, so, and I don't have sriracha mayo, so just make sure it's nice and mixed. And that's going to be our first mixture to put into our rice. And then for the salmon, I'm gonna keep it a little simpler. I'm just gonna add sriracha and not the mayo this time. And you don't have to add sriracha. I just like the spice to it to kind of go with the rice. And I just like spicy food in general. You can add a little or as much as you want. And then, so there we have our spicy salmon. So other than that, all the preparation that's left is to take just the crab meat out of the jar. And then I'm gonna cut up some slices of cream cheese to go in our sushi and our kimbap to go with the ingredients. And then we just have to wait till the rice is done. So before we start assembling our stuff, our rice is still cooking. I'm gonna show you some things you're gonna need to make it. The onigiri and the sushi and the kimbap. This is a little set of plastic shapers that I just got off Amazon. I think it was like 10-15 bucks. And so we have the 2 triangles for onigiri. I'll show you how to use them once we get to that, but you have like a big triangle and a small one. And then it also came with this like 5 little kind of rectangle one to make kind of little sushi roll type things. So we'll make some rolls out of that. And then also you're gonna have to get this seaweed sheets. I just got this at my regular grocery store. You don't have to go to like a special one probably. But yeah, it's just these toasted seaweed sheets. I'll show you what they look like. So this, you can see they're like serrated sort of, but they're kind of shiny on one side and rough on the other. And this is what you're gonna use to like wrap the onigiri or the rolls or your kimbap. So yeah, we're gonna use those, and that's kind of what you need to assemble your rolls. So our rice is done cooking on the stove, and we have to let it cool, but first I'm going just to fluff it, and then I'm going to add some seasoning to it, and then we're gonna wait till it cools down. But what I'm adding to it is just gonna be some sea salt, and then these toasted sesame seeds. Since I didn't salt the water is why I'm adding the salt, and then these just add some more flavor to it. And I don't really have a set amount I add, it's just kind of by eye, but there's 2 full cups of cooked rice, so I'm gonna add quite a bit and it will stir up and disperse. This also helps the rice cool a bit while it's being stirred. Alright, so once the rice has cooled, I like to set up my space. I have like my sides all here, the sauces, and then my rice, my seaweed sheets, the plate I'm going to put all the finished things, and then all my molds and such. And one thing you especially need when working with sushi rice is because it's so sticky, you need a bowl, and this is what you're going to stick like your hands and like your forks, knives in it. And this is going to help with keeping the rice off of you and your utensils, because when your hands or your utensils are wet, the rice is less likely to stick to you. And so whenever you're working with sticky rice like this, you need a bowl of water just on hand to help keep things moving without you gooping up with rice. So first I'm gonna start by showing you how to make the onigiri and these little triangle molds. And then I'm going to move on to these little rectangle guys. And then I'll probably make some rolls, some kimbap and such with my seaweed. And I'll show this up close instead of far away like this. So first, starting with the onigiri, I'm gonna wet my hands, and then I'm just going to grab a small bit of rice and start packing it into the bottom of these little triangles and wet my hands when I need. And I don't want to fill them up too full. I just kind of put like a small layer and add tiny bits where I see fit. But obviously you have to put the filling in and then another layer on top, so you don't want to make them too full. And for these, I'm gonna put in my tuna sriracha mix. I'm just gonna get a little spoonful. And I kind of like to put these more towards the center so they don't spill out the sides too much. It's always easier to put a little and add than put too much and try to take out. So I'm gonna keep it at that much, and then gonna go back and add my rice on top. And I kind of pat down as I go, kind of to fill out the sides, always wetting my hands so they don't stick too much. So once you have your top layer, you're just gonna take your little lids, stick them on there and stick them down, kind of push them together so it really makes those shapes. And this is when you can tell if you've packed too much rice or not. But then I'm just going to take the lids off and you turn them upside down and you're gonna push them out. They just a little plop out. And there's our little origiri. And then we just have to add some seaweed around them. And then when adding seaweed, you can wrap the whole thing, but I just like to do the typical piece around like the bottom. So I'm just going to break off some seaweed and then you just stick it right on. And then there you have your origiri and you just stick it on your plate. So next I'm gonna use my little rectangle mold, and you can use this the same way you use the origiri molds and like put rice filling and then rice again and then smush it down. But for these, I'm going to do it a little different. I'm gonna put rice, smush them, add some toppings, and then wrap them in seaweed to kind of make like sushi formed things. So again, wetting my hands just to mess with the rice. With this, I'm not gonna worry about like the different divisions. And I'm gonna add a little bit more rice since I'm gonna just have rice on the bottom as like the main part of the sushi. So there it's full. I've added more than I would if I was adding filling, but now I'm just going to shape them by doing the same thing, pushing down just to kind of get the shape. And then again, they have these little push out. So there I have my little rectangles. And for this, I'm going to use my crab. I'm just going to set them on top. Since these have like little slices, pieces, it's kind of easier to keep them together. It's a big one. So I'm just going to set them like that. And then for these, I'm going to take my sriracha sauce and pour a little on top just for some flavor. And then I'm going to take my seaweed sheets and the rough side and try to rip it down the serrated edges. It's not going to be perfect, but I want to get it as kind of down the sheet as I can. Therefore, I have a whole strip, and I'm going to set one kind of like right in the middle, a little to one end. And then this way I can just start and then roll it. There I have a little like crab roll. And then for these, you don't have to use the whole roll. You can stop once you get a good amount. You can keep going with those. You can add different toppings, or you can use this shape to make similar to origiri type where it's rice filling and then rice. So lastly, I'm gonna make some kimbap. It's similar to sushi except the seaweed's on the outside. You can use this technique to make sushi. It's just you have to put rice first and then put the seaweed and your ingredients inside of it. But I don't have like a sushi rolling mat, so I'm gonna make kimbap so it has all the same ingredients. But you're gonna lay your seaweed sheet down and you want the rough side on top and the serrated portions perpendicular to you, because that's where you're gonna cut your slices. So for this, you wanna make like a layer of rice. So I'm just gonna get some rice, and you wanna make it fairly thin so you can roll it. And I like to go about, I don't know, just shy of 3/4 of the way up. But getting the right amount of rice sometimes takes some practice and trial and error of having it too thick or too thin. But again, same concept, you want to be able to add instead of subtract. So adding a little rice at a time is helpful. Again, watch the thickness, keep your hands wet to have it not stick to you. All right, so now I have my rice down. I'm going to add my ingredients. So I'm gonna start off with some cucumber and then some carrots, add some cream cheese. For this one, I'm going to add in my salmon mixture that has sriracha on it. And then I'm just going to add some sauce and then we can roll it up. So for this, I'm just going to take the ends. It can get a little messy, but you just want to tuck and roll. We do. So you have a roll there, and then you're just going to get a knife. Doesn't have to be a big knife, but I'm going to wet it, and then you can go where the serrated parts are and cut down. And washing it every time you cut will allow the rice to not stick as much. Try not to push too hard. Just keep going, keep wetting your knife. And there you have your pieces of your kimbap. So there you have the 3 different kinds of sushi or kimbap or onigiri you can make using these simple ingredients and these molds. So that's how you make these 3 different rice foods. The sushi slash kimbap and the onigiri. They're fairly simple with these molds, and you just keep going until you run out of rice or fillings. And you can also look up different recipes and such to like put in the fillings or in the sushi, but it is fairly simple. It just takes some time to like get used to it and work the ingredients, but it's really delicious and fun to do at home. If you don't feel like going out and eating sushi at a restaurant, you can try making it at home. But I'm gonna finish until I use all of my ingredients. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something from it. I really love making these to eat for a meal, and then usually I have extras to save. I just put it in the fridge and I get to eat it whenever I want, dipping it in some soy sauce. But I think a lot of people look at these things and think they're really difficult. They're not. They just take some time and a little bit of practice to get the skills, but it really is simple. With a few helpful tips, it can be super easy to do. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Remember, if you want to be someone, why not be you? See you guys later. Bye.